I'm Mark Bell, and you're catching me on yet another 10-minute walk. I have a Twitter account, by the way, in case you guys didn't know, and it's at Mark Smelly Bell, and I've been giving away some tips on there. And recently, people have found this to be pretty helpful. It had a good response, so I wanted to share it with you guys today. What I wanted to share is fasting hasn't changed my body or changed my muscle mass. I've been jacked and tanned for a long time. I've been jacked with fasting. I've been jacked without fasting. However, for me personally, intermittent fasting has made it easier. For me, it's made it easier for me to stay on point. Fasting can be a great tool, so you might want to give it a try. So here's where I recommend starting when it comes to fasting. A great place to start is to cut your food out about 2 hours before bed. Let's say normally you finish eating at, 9 o'clock, and you normally go to bed at 10. Let's see if we can just push that back about an hour earlier. Now, for some people, eating right before bed and getting kind of full helps make them sluggish, helps make them tired, but for the sake of trying out some fasting, let's try it this way, okay? You're gonna cut your food out about 2 hours before you go to bed. Normally we sleep for about 8 hours. So if you sleep for 8 hours and you had a 2 hour extra cushion, then we're talking about 10 hours of fasting already, right? So you already got 10 hours of fasting going on. Now you wanna push breakfast off for 2 to 4 hours, and now you're already at 12 to 14 hours of fasting without even really trying that much. Give this a shot, maybe try it every other day for a while, try it about 3 times a week. If you try it every day, fasting accumulates and it starts to kind of sit on your body a little bit, and it starts to get a little uncomfortable. So you might want to kind of beware of that, and that's why I like to personally do it every other day. I've learned by having an eating window and by having a job of eating protein, trying to eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So for me, I weigh about 240. I'm making sure I get a minimum of 240 grams, but I probably get more like 300 grams of protein every day. You guys, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm taking advantage of getting a tan, getting that vitamin D as I'm talking to you, multitasking. Oh, so because the eating window is short, anywhere between 2 hours and 6 hours, sometimes I only have 1 meal, but more often than not, I have 2 or 3 meals. When I have 2 or 3 meals and I'm eating that amount of protein, it ends up being a really enjoyable feast. I get to have a nice feast. So fasting and feasting is a great way to go, especially like if you're somebody that really struggles. It can also be a bad way to go, and I'll talk about that in a second, but let's focus on the good, let's focus on the positive. Fasting and feasting can be fantastic. If you're somebody that wants to feel really full, like you're just used to eating a lot, then I think some intermittent fasting can go a long way for you. Now here's where it can be bad. Sometimes people fast too much and then they need a payoff for the fast. And so the best way to treat fasting, to have it be positive, to have fasting give you a net positive, and to have fasting help you release weight. We're releasing weight here on the Mark Smelly Bell YouTube channel. We're not losing weight, because if we lose weight, then we're going to be in search of it again, right? That's what we do when we lose stuff. We look for it again. We're not looking for it. We're trying to release this weight, and we're trying to get rid of it forever. So let's get on board with that. Let's change some of that dialogue around, and let's work on making sure that that shit never comes back. But a big key to fasting is to pretend that it never happened. So if you fasted, let's just say you fasted for 24 hours. The key is not to eat the next day. Let's say your normal caloric intake is, let's just say 2,500 calories. Well, if you fasted for an entire day, you took a Saturday off, Sunday we're not trying to eat 5,000 calories. Sunday we're trying to eat 2,500 calories to make sure that the impact of fasting is felt, and make sure that we can continue to release body fat, release weight. Now we got you to work your way up into a 12 to 14 hour range of fasting, right? And it's done pretty easily because we stopped eating about 2 hours before bed. You're sleeping for 8 hours, and then in addition, and that counts. And in addition to that, we're pushing breakfast back a little bit, and so you're ending up with a decent amount of hours already. Now if you want to start to work your way towards 16 hours or 18 hours or even any longer, it's just a matter of hanging in there a little bit more. But I don't suggest that you do that right away, because you're going to really feel like you're just crazy hungry. I would also encourage you to ditch the word starving, and I would have a better understanding what that word means. Like, I don't think it's fair to tell people that you're starving. Like when someone says, hey man, are you hungry? And you're like, no, I'm starving, and you're just super crazy hungry. There's people that are legitimately starving and who really suffer from starvation. So I think let's just ditch the word. I don't think it's a good mindset to have either, because you're not starving. You're just a little bit hungry. Even if you didn't eat for 2 or 3 days. If you live here in the United States and you get the frequency of all the food that we have, and you get the abundance and the convenience of all the food that we have, you're most likely probably doing pretty okay. And if you have the ability to watch this YouTube video with the Wi-Fi hookup, I'm sure you're doing A-okay. So work yourself towards 16 to 18 hours. Try that every other day, and give that a go for maybe a month or two, and see how you like it and see how it fits you. I found that it works great for me. I have days in between where I eat more often, and again, on those days in between, I'm not trying to make up for lost times with my eating. I'm just kind of eating a little bit more normal, and I think that pretty much concludes it. But hopefully you're kind of understanding that. And the reason why I'm not really recommending like a particular food protocol with this, which you can apply any diet to this. You can apply a keto diet to it. You can apply a bodybuilding style diet to it. You can use the carnivore diet with it. But once you end up kind of pigeonholing your food into this smaller eating window, it just makes it difficult. It makes it a challenge. It's kind of fun, but it's also kind of challenging. It's also a little bit of a pain in the ass to get that amount of protein in. It reminds me of like some bodybuilding coaches. They'll sometimes say, hey, you can have at it, but you can only have at it with as much fish as you want. Like, if you're hungry during the diet, eat like white stuff. Eat egg whites or white fish, and you can have at it and eat as much of it as you want. And you're like, that sucks. You're like, that sounds awful. But the point is that is low in calories and it's high in protein. We want to utilize protein leveraging to our advantage. And when you start to eat a lot of protein, the second that you get into that protein from being super hungry, you're hungry, you fasted for 16 hours or 18 hours that day, the second you get through one chicken breast, you're like, oh shit. You're like, I can't believe what a chump I've turned into. It gets to be really difficult to eat. So my recommendations in terms of protein are going to be steak, chicken, any sort of fish that you want to have. Shrimp, I like shrimp a lot. I eat that pretty often. Salmon, tuna, any fish is fair game. If you want to, kind of stay on the leaner side of things, go with some leaner choices of steak rather than going with like the ribeyes and things like that. And I would just say, I think you can bodybuild this. You can get in, 1 gram per pound of body weight in terms of your protein, and you can do about the same with your carbohydrates, especially on a training day. And it should be a diet that just really kicks a lot of ass. In terms of your fat calories, I would just let them be the way they are. Like, I wouldn't count them. I wouldn't worry about them too much. However, if you're not losing weight, then you might want to look into it. You might want to say, all right, well, I'm going to, have about 100 grams of fat a day. Or you can take the amount of carbs and the amount of protein that I suggested, which is one gram per pound of body weight, and you might want to cut that in half for your fat. It's a decent place to start. Sometimes it might be a little bit lower. Sometimes the carbohydrates might be a little bit higher, kind of depending on who you are and how you train and so on. But I think gives you a really good base. And then maybe on the non-training days, maybe cut the carbs back even a little bit more, but eat a little bit more meals. Might be something you want to try. It's been super effective for me. When I'm like not super honed in on my diet, I'm not trying to really like cut and get all shredded up, I utilize this principle right here, and it keeps me big, it keeps me strong, it keeps me feeling really good, it keeps me lean without a lot of effort. It's kind of effortless. Like today I didn't eat anything. It's like 1:30. I feel totally fine. I feel like I have a lot of energy. The only thing that it does do that's a little bit annoying is I get one good strong pulse of wanting to eat. Sometimes it's right in the morning, and sometimes it's about 2 hours after I wake up, 3 hours after I wake up, but then it's gone. And again, hopefully you guys understand a lot of the stuff I've been teaching and preaching over the years. The way that we get hungry will come and go regardless of whether we have food or not. So you're going to be really hungry a couple times a day like this. You can look some of this stuff up. Boom, boom, boom. It's going to wave with and without food. Just because you don't eat food doesn't mean that it's going to stay this way, and just because you don't eat food doesn't mean it's going to skyrocket that way. You only get so hungry. So this is the way I've utilized intermittent fasting. There's a lot of other ways you can do it. I did mention fasting for 24 hours. Maybe you want to try that. Maybe you want to try to fast for 24 hours. Maybe you want to try to fast for 24 hours like once a month, just to pick off some calories off of your nutrition. Might be something that might work really good for you. Give it a shot. This has been working great for me. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch y'all later.